Okay, comparative advantage practice. Let me get you guys a little closer. So, you should have watched the absolute advantage video. You should have watched the PowerPoint video. And now this is a practice problem, okay? So every comparative advantage question can only be one of four types of questions, okay? So every time you talk about comparative advantage, you're gonna get something that's involving what I'm about to do. So, over here, to be clear, this is the total, I hope you can read this, right? Total number of tablets and total number of video games produced by the United States and Japan in, we'll say, a day, okay? One day. So, the first question you have to tell yourself is this an input question or is it an output question? Because that will dictate the rest of this. And where's the key? How do you know? So, the key is right here. Total number of these products in a day, a month, a year. So that's total output. It would be input if it was total number of workers it takes to make one of these goods. Total number of acres it takes to make one of these goods. Total number of factories it takes to make excuse me, one of these goods. So, the United States can make 200 or 50. 200 tablets or 50 video games. Japan can make 300 tablets or 100 video games. Their graphs would look like this. Who makes more overall? Well, so first thing you figure out is that this is an output question. And if it's an output question, that automatically tells you it's going to be an other goes over question. And that's for number 3 here. Okay? So you figured out it's an output question, done the first part. The second part, after you've done that, now you can figure out who has the absolute advantage of each product. So, whoever is an output question, whoever makes more, a greater number, has the absolute advantage. Super easy. So, okay, who makes more tablets? Looks like Japan. Who makes more video games? Also looks like Japan. If I were to draw this out, Japan would have a much greater production possibilities than the smaller United States. But you don't have to draw that out in most cases, okay? So, Japan, done, answers. Now comes the trickier part. Who has the comparative advantage, okay? Remember, comparative advantage dictates who is going to specialize and trade in that particular good. And the way to find that out is to figure out who has the smaller opportunity cost of producing the other good. So, how do we do that? Who has comparative advantage in tablets? Who has it in video games? I'm going to take these numbers and take this box, and I have to make an opportunity cost box. And everybody should do this. So I redrew this. This is the same, 200, 350, 100. It's an output question, which this is going to be important. Other goes over. And this is how you set it up. Every time you do this in my class, you need to set up what I call an opportunity cost box. So it looks very similar to this. You basically redraw this, except that you change what's in the middle. I've got US, Japan, US, Japan. On the top, you always put the product or the inputs. The product, you want the product, right? So tablet, video games. Now, you have to break it down into per unit in order to figure out the opportunity cost. What does per unit mean? It means break it down to one product. So, in the time it took the United States to make one tablet, how many video games could they have made? So one tablet is going to equal a certain number of video games. So how do I do that? I want to know tablets, so therefore I look over. This is my other. My other goes over. So 50 over 100, 50 over 100 is 1/4. So one tablet, in the time it took to make one tablet, I could have made 1/4 of a video game. Then I look for Japan. What about them? How long does it take for them to make one tablet? I look at the other and I put it over. 100 over 300 is 1/3 of a video game. Okay. Now, I look over to the other product. What about video games? And in time it took them to make one video game. All right, 50 video games for the US. I look, other goes over. 200 over 50 means 4, not video games, but tablets. And what about for Japan? I take the other and goes over. One video game costs them 300 over 100, 3 tablets. Now the hard work is done. It's over. You already put the answer. Now you got to just figure out who gives up less of the other good. So, a trick I tell kids is at this point, you say to yourself, I have to look vertically. I want to know who should make tablets, who should make video games. So I look vertically, who gives up less video games? 1/4 is smaller than 1/3. And vertically for video games, who should make video games? 3 is smaller than 4. So the United States is going to specialize in video games. The United States is going to specialize in tablets, and Japan is going to specialize in video games because they give a smaller opportunity cost. And that's going to be my answer. The US tablets and Japan video games. Okay, I hope that makes sense. Now the last part, you may or may not be on your exam, your AP exam, but it's called a terms of trade question. It's the last part of the whole comparative advantage thing. And terms of trade means I could give you a terms of trade and say, is it a good trade for both countries if they traded 1 tablet for 1 video game or 3 tablets for 1 video game? Is that a good trade for each country? Does it work out? Are they happy with that? Or does it only work out for one country and not the other? Or maybe it doesn't work out for either of them. So what's terms of trade? I gave you a question here. If you can't read it, it says, is 1 video game for 1 tablet a good trade for both countries? If it's not a good trade for both countries, generally it'll say explain why it's either a good trade or explain why it's a bad trade. Otherwise, you just have to say yes or no, right? But usually to get the full point, you got to get an explanation. Now, the way you figure out terms of trade, it's actually very simple. So forget about what the question was. I want to figure out who's making what. So the US is making tablets. We know that. So the US will say, all right, they'll trade 1 tablet. Oh, I always say break it down into 1. Always break it down to 1. Don't worry about 300, 550. Don't worry about the big numbers. Break it down to 1. If you break it down to 1, you've already done it. You've already figured out how much the US is willing to accept for 1. So the US can make 1 tablet. In the same time, they could have made, on their own, 1/4 of a video game. Okay? So are they going to want for 1 tablet, are they going to want more than 1/4 of a video game or less? So the US, of course, hopefully you said more, right? So the US says, I will take 1 tablet for more than, I put a greater than symbol, 1 video game. So I know the US has to get back more than 1 video game. What about Japan? Well, they're not producing tablets, they're producing video games. So they're going to trade 4 tablets. So there, Japan says they're willing to trade 1 video game. Well, they could have made how many video games, how many tablets in the same time? They could have made 3. So they're going to have to accept what? Right. Hopefully you said it, more than 3. So they're going to have to get back more than 3 video games. Okay? So the question was, is a 1 tablet for 1 video game acceptable for both countries? And the answer is no. It's not acceptable for both countries. Because a 1-to-1 trade, that works for the US, that makes them, that's supposed to be a smiley face, very happy. But Japan said, wait a minute, 1 video game, I can make 3 on my own. Why would I trade 1 video game for, I screwed this up. 1 video game for, I can make 3 tablets on my own. Why would I do that? It makes no economical sense. It's not in their self-interest. So Japan is going to, sad face, say no. Okay? So how would I answer this? I don't have enough to write it, but is this a good trade for both countries? No. It's good for the United States because they on their own, they are willing to accept more than 1/3. Anything more than 1/3 of a product, or 1/4 of a video game. Japan will only be willing to accept more than 3. So 1 is not going to work for them. And that's how you would explain it. I hope it makes sense. Please ask me questions. And that's that.